and Senator Fisher. Senator Heller.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thanks for the opportunity to discuss this issue that I think is critically important for our economy. And I want to thank the witnesses for taking time and spending some time with us today, and for everybody that's in the hearing who's expressed and shown their concern for this issue also. I was appreciative of your testimony, Mr. Webster, as you went through some of the statistics and the growth that we're going to see in these areas, especially in data traffic and also the mobile devices that we're going to see by 2017, which, of course, underscores the need and the understanding that we need more spectrum, and that it'll all go in the hands of these wireless providers. We all know here the FCC is working on a complex spectrum auction right now, and we're hopeful that we can incentivize enough broadcasters to voluntarily sell their spectrum so the government can then auction it for wireless services to the highest bidder. Hopefully that revenue will be enough to cover and accomplish several goals. One is, of course, is enough to purchase the spectrum from the broadcasters themselves to fund FirstNet, and third, hopefully, enough to provide money to reduce the deficit. I mean, those are pretty aggressive goals, and obviously maximizing the revenue in a auction like this is key. So to you, Congressman Largent, and I think all of us have kind of touched about the, from the chairman to the ranking member, most of us are talking about revenues from this auction. And if the government intervened, as suggested by Mr. Berry, to set up rules that limited some in the markets from entry to this auction, would that reduce the amount of revenue available?
Undoubtedly, it would reduce the amount of revenue that would go to the Treasury.
Is there any reasons in your opinion that there should be conditions set on the spectrum auction?
I personally feel like the fewer conditions that are set on the auction, the more robust and the more money you'll get from the auction. We have seen in the 700 megahertz auction that was very complicated and just created a lot of hoops for companies to jump through in order to bid on that spectrum, what the outcomes were. We're still wrestling with the 700 megahertz A block that Steve mentioned because of that. And so I just think that if you just have a clean auction with a lot of spectrum and you let people bid on it, that you'll have the best outcome in terms of money to the Treasury, funding FirstNet, being able to pay for the broadcasters to relocate and compensate them for their spectrum that they give up.
I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on this reverse auction portion of this. And if we don't provide the right incentives for broadcasters to sell their spectrum, we're jeopardizing the whole goal of paying for FirstNet and for bringing more meaningful spectrum to the market. In your opinion, is the FCC getting the reverse auction right?
I think that's yet to be seen. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I've talked to people at the FCC, and there's been a lot of changes at the FCC over the last month or two. So that's a question yet to be answered. But I am optimistic. I am hopeful. They understand the concerns that we have, and I think they're trying to address them. At the end of the day, I can't give you an affirmative answer, but I'm hopeful.
Mr. Berry, I'll give you a chance to respond. To myself and my constituents, I think it's important that we enjoy a robust, competitive wireless market. I believe that leads to innovation. I also think it lowers the price point for some of these expensive devices. And in your testimony, you argue for a robust spectrum screen that limits the amount of spectrum a company could own, and for rules that ensure competitive carriers that you represent that would be able to bid on this spectrum. Can you give me some idea of what those rules would look like?
Yes, sir, and thank you very much. I would say that the 700 megahertz spectrum auction is a somewhat a good reference. The fewest amount of dollars brought in by that spectrum was the largest sized spectrum. Only the largest carriers could bid on it, and it's sort of playing a bluff game. I don't think that we should do that. The Charles River and Associates study, which was provided last year showed that unrestricted auctions actually can limit the total bidder participation and actually reduce auction revenue. As I said in my comments, I want AT&T and Verizon in the same ecosystem as our carriers, because if they do that, then our carriers were going to bid because they know they have an ecosystem that they can participate in. They're not going to get fooled again like they were in the lower 700 megahertz and ended up not having an ecosystem that they could grow and build and have access to devices. If you don't have, every auction that's been conducted has had some type of rules and restrictions. And I'm really afraid that if you have an auction without any recognition that the one or two largest carriers should not walk away with the pie, then your auction rules is going to be essentially equivalent to let the big dog eat and let him eat all he wants. And I don't think that will bring in the most revenue to the U.S. The 700 auction showed CMAs brought in almost twice the amount of revenue per pop per meg as did the large aggregated REAG areas. And I think we're going to see that again, and I think the FCC should have a device to bring certainty to the marketplace. That's what all these carriers want, certainty. And if you can have certainty on knowing what you're expected to be able to walk away with, you're going to bid more, and I think the American taxpayer will benefit from it.
Mr. Berry, thank you, and to all the witnesses, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Senator